Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the penultimate session of today's m-hance virtual summit. And you're going to hopefully learn some tips and tricks about Dynamics GP presented by me, Michael Boyle. I would say that at the minute everyone is on mute. If you have any questions, please type the questions in, and I will either try and get round to answering them after each section, or if we've got time, I will answer them at the end. Otherwise, we'll email you and pick that up completely after the session and see if we can get through your things that way. Okay, so what are we looking at today? Finding that the slides aren't moving. Okay, today I'm hoping to try to make your life in GP a little bit easier. Help you learn how to navigate better around the system. I find that I can do things, get lost, and then have to come back and find ways around. By using shortcuts and custom menus, I'm hoping to help you be able to find documents faster, make your life easier by being able to reprint remittances and use doc attach, a great feature within GP to collate and hold information about items, about suppliers, customers, and about any of the documents we're actually creating within GP, whether that be receivables, payables, transactions, or SOP and POP documents. I hope to help you somehow, and this is always one thing that flies about all over the place, to help you to reduce your paper and increase the information flow within the business. And again, that is through the use of doc attach, and also our support people came back and said people just don't know how to email out from GP. So I'm hoping you'll be able to understand that a little bit better and be able to give your partners, whether they're customers or suppliers, more information. And hopefully, we've got time, we will have a look at very quickly a GP workflow and how that can reduce your document flow, your paper chase, and also help to give some segregation of work within GP. So there we are. We've had the slides. I'm sure you've seen enough slides today if you've been on them. So let's just get into GP now and see what I'm actually talking about. So the first thing, just so you're aware, I'm in Fabricam, which is the GP test company. So you will see that some things here are American, and you will see that we use the standard lovely suppliers and customers of Aaron Fitz and Ace Travel, the most popular travel company within the world, I think. Also, I'm actually using GP 18.3, just so you're aware on that, which on the whole works similar to GP 16. The workflow is slightly different ones within this, but most of the tips and tricks we're looking at here are applicable throughout the whole of the the currently supported GP stack. Okay, so the first one, navigating around GP. In a previous tips and tricks session, webinar organized by our brilliant Sharon Keegan, she discussed how to use the shortcuts on the homepage to be able to get to places within GP faster and quicker. To use the shortcuts, just to summarize on that, we can right click in the homepage pane area and we can add, and here you can see we can add a window, a smart list, or the great thing, the benefit of the shortcut is that this can actually be to an external source. So this can be an external document such as the Excel spreadsheet that I am just about to link to. So as you can see, at the very start of the day, I actually cannot type, and I also have severe problems with spelling. But we can see here that I've got my Excel spreadsheet named here, and then I can browse to this and look within my documents or anywhere within my system, the spreadsheet that I wish to list to, and this link to, and this one here is this traveler spreadsheet which I have created, and I can click open, and add. And we can see here that the Excel spreadsheet has actually arrived on my shortcut. So by clicking on this link here, we can see that GP automatically launches it. Okay, so there we can see the spreadsheet. And just to prove that that is the same spreadsheet, I can come to my documents, into my tips and tricks, and open up my travelers spreadsheet. So there we can see that we have got a spreadsheet that I can access no matter where I am. Don't have to worry about where that is. Okay, you can also see on here that I've got additional screens where I can link to a window within GP. By clicking on add window, we can see the options parts within GP open up, and we can have a look, navigate through, and add specific windows that I may be going to on a day-by-day basis. So I'm just going to come into here, have a look for my payables batches, payables batch entry, and add that to my shortcut here. Okay, this is great. I quite like using this sheet here. A couple of points that it is good about: it's quick, it's easy, and it can include external items as you've seen. One of the problems I have with this using this shortcut area though is the fact that as soon as I move into any other place within GP, you can see that my shortcuts disappear. So usually when I'm working, as you can see, I do a lot of work within workflow, and you can see I've got workflow maintenance here. It's great. I can open up the workflow maintenance window by clicking on this link. But if I'm suddenly in purchasing, having a look at my purchase order entry screen, I have to still use the standard navigations or come back to home, lose my place to actually click that workflow maintenance link. Okay. I'll come about the other thing about the navigation bar here is because I can have multiple links on here. GP when I first launch will review the links that are set up here and the shortcuts that are set up here and make sure they are valid links. I have been working with a lot of clients where they've got hundreds of shortcuts, which means I struggle to find the wood for the trees when I'm actually looking at that. Also, the shortcuts are actually there and have been in the system for months on end and don't exist. That means that when we launch GP, GP has to go and validate the paths to all those shortcuts. It takes time to launch GP. If the shortcuts don't exist, it will actually slow GP down in its opening. So bear in mind that when you're creating your shortcuts, keep them small, keep them concise. Another way to navigate around and make things simpler, which people forget about, is the fact that I can customize my menu bar up the top here. So by right-clicking on here at the top, I can see that I'm currently displaying the main menu, but if I'm used to using purchasing, if I tick the purchasing button, I can see there that the icons appear, and I've got a purchase order entry screen, I've got my receivings transaction entry screen, I've got enter match invoices, or I can click on the payables transaction window, and that open up straight away there for me. Again, that's great. I can customize this menu by right-clicking. I can click on customize, and I can come down to my purchasing window here and decide, okay, I'll tell you what, I don't ever use receivings transaction entry. So I can select the receivings transaction entry screen, delete that, hit OK, and we can see that the button has automatically removed from my system. May well be that there's not a menu bar that I actually want here. So what I can actually do is come in and select the custom menu bar, and this allows me to build my own menu bar up. So as I said, we notice that there is not one up here for building workflows. So I can come into here and I'm going to build a workflow set of menus. So I can come into GP, and down here we can see we've got the various screens that we have. So within Microsoft Dynamics, I can come to Tools, I can come to Setup, I can come to Company, and I can see Workflow, and I can add the maintenance. I could add the calendar, tool setup, sorry, tool setup, tool system, Sorry. Tool setup company, workflow, and workflow calendar. So if I add these two, we can see we have the workflow calendar and the workflow maintenance appearing. I can hit OK to that and make sure I do display the custom menu. And we can see here that we've got the workflow maintenance, workflow calendar shortcuts here. So again, I can click on that and we can see that that will open up my workflow maintenance window. As I said, one of the advantages about using the menu bars is that they stay there all the time. So with me working within the workflows, I'm able to come and still access the workflow maintenance as I may be stepping through looking at how it affects my workflows. Okay, so that is a couple of quick ways of navigating around your GP. Looking at how we can get to documents quicker. I was actually having a look at this and thinking, okay, how can we do this? And I think one thing that strikes me when I go into some clients is they turn around and they will print GP remittances and email them out to suppliers. If they then need to supply or give a secondary copy of that remittance to a supplier, a user will often go off and have to dig through their mailboxes. Excuse me a second. Just to supply that information back out, because as you know, up until I think it was GP 16, there was no ability to reprint remittances. Therefore, it was the email, dig out the email, take off the PDF copy, and then re-email that remittance out to a user. That's great if the user that's needing to do the remittance is still working with you, still there, or is not on holiday or available, and they can actually find the remittance. GP then now has the ability to reprint remittances, and there's a couple of ways around you could actually do that. When I was looking at this, so I thought I would come and show you that we can come to our payables transaction navigation lists. Okay, so navigation lists again is a bit of a forgotten area within GP, and we can see here that I'm in the navigation lists, which are down the sidebar here, and these change depending on which area of GP I'm in. You can see here that I'm coming into the payables transaction navigation list. Okay, and this shows me sort of like details of all the payables transactions within GP. Now, one of the things, like I said, what I'm interested in doing is having a look and finding my remittance. So I can actually very quickly look and filter out documents within the payables transactions based on document type and within this navigation list. So I can very quickly add a filter where the document type, and because we're looking at generating a remittance, is we're looking for a document type is a payment. So here we can see here that I'm very quickly able to filter down the list of documents and find very quickly all my payments. I could have just sorted on the document type, but obviously these are the ones that I'm looking for. And actually, I'm interested in finding my a remittance for American charge. They were interested in speaking to me. So I could either, again, sort by creditor name and see this dynamically sorts by American charge, or I could actually come up to the filter up here and type in the first couple of characters of America, hit the filter there, and we can see that this filter up here is smart enough to actually filter down my American charge documents. So I want to reprint the remittance for this $22 payment. I can click on that, and I could actually double click the document, and that would launch my payables document Zoom. And here I've got the ability to recreate the check stub. Okay, so if we do this, put it to the template, hit OK, we can actually see that we've reprinting that remittance. Okay, and just to show you that actually I learned something new today and doing this, looking at this presentation and the dynamic natures of navigation lists, what I actually noticed is we've got this here, and noticed up the top that I don't actually even have to go into the document to reprint the remittance. I can actually come to the reprint check stub here, And as you can see, I've had to do exactly the same things. The reprint remittance actually saves me going into different screens and doing that. So navigation lists are a great way of processing and finding data. They are sort of like dynamic smart lists. And let's just think about it for a minute. I was selecting just that first one. If I select those three documents and hit recreate Checkstop, what we can actually see is that GP will go away and actually generate the three of them for me. So again, if you think about it, you're not sure of which one you want to do, or your supplier wants to have all the remittances. By using the navigation list, I'm able to print and therefore supply all in the click of one button, the three remittances that they were after. So again, I think that's pretty neat, pretty fancy. So that is what's sort of like one of the powerful tools within GP for navigating around and finding our documents. Okay. I think the next area I was interested in having a look at was improving the flow of information for you and for the people within your business. Sorry, one thing I should maybe say. As you can see, this was the payables transaction just before we leave navigation lists. If I'm coming into this all the time and looking for payments, I am able to either, if I clear that out, I could actually come through and actually save this as a default navigation list. So rather than sort of like coming in and each time having to reset and look at my effective rebuild and refilter my navigation list, what I am able to do is come in, and if I check my document type and put this back in as being a payment and apply that, okay, what I'm able to do, so here are all my payments again, what I am able to do is maybe save this navigation list. These are my payments. Okay, and I can hit an OK on that. So now we can see here that within my payables transaction, down here I have got a payments navigation list. So I can come to the default one, which is unfiltered, or I could come to my payments one, which has been filtered on the document type. Okay, and actually also within this payments, what I could actually do is come to customize and then actually look to share that. So you can see here I'm logged in as SA, but I could share it to some specific people. Maybe my accounts payable user 1 and my accounts payable user 2. Okay, and that means that when they actually log in, they would actually see this payment screen on the side here. And maybe I'll just show you that by opening up GP. Let's just make sure I've saved that before I actually log in as the user. So if we just save on that, that's within all companies. So here, if I come in as AP user 1, we will hopefully see that logging into purchasing, and in the payables transaction, we can see here that we have got the payments navigation list. So there we go. The power of navigation lists and sharing data. Yeah, so the next thing I was interested in having a look at and talking to you about was again the theme of accessing documents and keeping data on hand for everyone. And looking here across purchase orders and sales orders, but in some respects these can apply to accounts payables transactions and accounts receivables transactions, where we actually are looking to use document attach. So I've got a purchase order which I was looking to put together. We've got some people going away to New York for for a trade show with Microsoft. And so we've got 4 people going across, and I've been looking and trying to get some details out of our nice supplier, Ace Travel. Here we go, Ace Travel up here. And I've asked them to put together a quote for us, and they have come along and said, okay, yes, this is what we're planning to do for you. If I come back to my tips and tricks folder, we can see here that I've actually got an Ace Travel quote for New York trip. And so here we are. They've nicely sent me an email saying, look, here we go, your flights and the hotels detailed down with breakfast. This is how much it's going to cost you. Okay, obviously I'd maybe expect it to be a bit more fancy and a bit logoed up if it was a true company, but there we are. That's the gloriousness of demonstrations. So I obviously want people to be able to see that when they may be coming and reviewing this quote, and also I want to be able to have that for future when I'm actually looking to put my purchase order on. So I've put together my air tickets, and I've put in my I've actually put in the cost that they gave me. And what I'm able to do though is come along and actually attach the original document. So here I can come along and add in my quote using document attach to hold that within that purchase order, so that anyone that wants to see why are we paying £650 for a flight, or what was the price of the hotel rooms, we can actually see the quote generated by Ace Travel for that. And if I save that, we can actually come back to that document, have a look at this. We can see the quote here, and by me selecting the quote and hitting preview, it says, we can see that that is opening up the document for me. So I'm able, as a manager or as the user, to always come back and refer to that. May well be I started doing it and I want to add some details into that purchase order. So I start off with the quote for the flights and the rooms, but I maybe want to then have some other travel around or book a conference suite or something like that. So I could always add and build into that quote there. And like I said, that is done using the power of Doc Attach. Doc Attach is set up by within each GP company, and it holds the document that we've attached there actually within the GP database. So there is no way that the information stored there is ever going to be lost. It's going to live with GP for the rest of its life, which I think is a great thing, because you're always able then to come back and review that. Okay, so that's given us that. If I then actually want to go ahead with that, it may well be that actually someone's saying, okay, what I suppose, yeah, if I'm looking at that, I can actually do that. I could turn around and say, okay, yes, I'm happy with that. I want to send this order off and accept that. So I could actually generate this then as an email. So I'm going to say yes to my supplier. This is one of the things that we were looking to do. I could email this out to the supplier and say, yep, okay, that's what I want to do. Now, just coming back to that, the email it's picking up is defaulting from the creditor. So within the creditor maintenance, I can come to here and have a look at the email information, and we can see here that it's pulling up an email address of m-hance@gmail.com. So just realized that maybe that looks as though that's shut down, even though it was open earlier. There we are. Let's just come to my inbox. I'm hoping this is going to open up, and there we go. I'm just going to archive that one for a moment, because that's not what we want to see. Select and bin. There we go. So we can see here that we don't have an email in here, but we can see that that is the email address that that's going to. So if I want to email this out to the supplier, which is effectively the same as releasing it, as printing it, I could automatically hit the email button here, and with them having an email address, it is going to go out. But we can have a look at the creditor ID. Because I have an email address, an email set up, we can see there's a little email icon here to the right of the creditor. I can click on that, and we can see that there's a standard email that has been set up within the system that is going to email out to the supplier, dear, and their contact number. Please find the PO number, and there's some text here. and it's going to reply to me. So I'm quite happy with all of that. I can say okay, and if I hit email on that, it's going to go to blank paper. I hit send. We can see this is progressing. Okay, and if I come to the end of that, we can see there that this document has now been released. Okay, and in a little bit of time, we should see, and this will take a couple of minutes for this to actually come through. We should see that that email will arrive within my mailbox. Whilst we're waiting for that to happen, he says, I think it takes about 30 seconds, 40 seconds. So whilst we're waiting for that to happen, what I just want to also think about is, well, okay, we had this broken down here, but there may be more details that we want to have sending to the supplier. So we have the details of the hotel room and the details of the air ticket, but usually when you're doing stuff like that, you actually want to give them the details of who's traveling, any dietary requirements, anything else that may be going along. So way that you would often do that, I think that a lot of people would actually do that, is they would come along, they would print the purchase order, they'd maybe print it to a PDF. Okay, print to PDF. Okay, I can edit it to Word document, but this is a PO and want details. That's going to go to printer. It's going to go to file. Yeah, PDF. Let's go put that into my desktop. That's going to come to as PO details. Okay, and you print that off. We get the Word document appearing. Okay, so that's my PO details here. We've got the purchase order all ready to go. We would open up Outlook, we would attach it, we'd dig out our spreadsheet, which I've got here, which is our traveler spreadsheet, and have that so that that was all ready to go. GP though, with Doc Attach, gives us the ability to actually email out additional documents to the supplier when we actually print the invoice. So if I come back to my original purchase order, he says, wishing that the mail was actually back working, and it still hasn't arrived. Oh, it's the joys of working with Corgi, with their live emails. Yeah. So yeah, here we are with the travelers. What I'm looking to do is actually include, as I said, some additional information. So I'm looking to tell them who the additional passengers are, their dates of birth, their passport numbers, and if they've got any dietary requirements for the flights. So I could come along and select to attach. Okay, and here we can see our details of attachments that we wanting to have with this purchase order. And if I select attach and select travelers, okay, I now have put onto here the details of the travelers that are going to be going on the New York trip. So I can still come to here and attach, and I can preview that, and we can see here that we have the travelers appearing here. Okay, what I'm also going to do actually is, just as part of something, when I come to email it again, I'm going to get this sending to my own email address so we can actually see this coming through straight away. But okay, how do I get that email to include the details of the travelers and other things that I may want? There we go. As if by magic, our purchase, just before I needed it, here we can go. Our original purchase order email request has come in, and we can see here that we have got a purchase order. Please see the attached, and they're able to open up this purchase order and see that here we've got the airline tickets, the 4 of them, and things like that. So I think we're looking at about a 3-minute delay in those coming through. So our supplier now is able to see our purchase order and do that as they see fit. So that's good. However, as I was saying, what we actually want to do is also include to them some more details. In this case, like I said, this is the this is the travelers. For other clients that I've used, they've maybe had things where they've been having major technical specifications. They're ordering high volume or high capacity water tanks that need to require specific pressures. And they've done AutoCAD drawings, which can't be included actually physically in the email, or to make it easier to include in the email and actually tie that all in. You've used document attached to push this into here, and to actually get this out to the supplier at the same time and know it's gone, if we come to actions and include select attachment to send an email, what I'm able to do is include maybe here our traveler's details. Okay, I might also actually include maybe we've got our own specific contract that we deal with Ace Travel. Okay, and also maybe our general terms and conditions. But if you're dealing with us, we expect you to maybe to be a specific supplier. So I can select all of these 3 documents, and these will then appear with the email when I actually send that out. So I'm going to select that. So I've obviously got some more additional documents on here, and I could either to let the supplier know that I've got some additional documents, come onto here and put a note onto my message body to say, we've got some additional documents attached. But that just exists with the message body. That doesn't exist with the purchase order. So why not use the comment ID here to actually come in and say, please see the attachment for the breakdown of the traveling employees. So there we go. I can pop that on. We've got this. I can then come back to my document, hit email. I want to save the changes and send that through. And in about 3 minutes or so time, we're actually going to see these documents come through. But I tell you what, whilst we're waiting for that, we'll go on to the next thing and show the beauty about the doc attach. Because if we actually come back to here, I think if you remember, we've actually got the quote here. So at some point in time down the line, we're going to be getting an invoicing. Okay, so a traditional way to do receipting transaction entry would be to come to this window here and change it maybe to a shipment invoice, put a receipt detail in, put the invoice number in find the creditor, Ace Travel, okay, and then do an auto receive, because here we can see all the stuff here that we've got. Well, we could do it that way, or the other way we could actually do it, if I delete this down, is if we come to our purchase order transactions. Okay, here I've maybe got down here a list here where I've got my Ace Travel. He says purchase order transactions, yeah. So let's add a filter, and document type is a purchase order. Well, I can see it's standard. Okay, so we can apply that. Okay, and I'm just going to sort by name here. And here we can see that we've got a standard, and this is our purchase order. And we know that has been emailed to our supplier because we can see here we've got the email. So what I'm able to do here is maybe come in and select this one and then say, I'm actually going to receive the items. If we have a look here, I could actually just receive the items, do a shipment, or I could do receive and invoice the items. If I click on that, there we go. We can see that the system is coming up and saying, okay, what are we actually going to receive? It's automatically pushing these through for me. I can hit receive on that, and then it's automatically populated in all my details for me. All I need to do is give my supplier details numbers. So that was invoice 5674. and I'm going to save this to a batch. There we are, the ZZ Tech Summit batch. And if we actually have a look at that, what I probably will want to do as well, if I add that batch, because that's a new batch, save that batch, save the document because we have to save it. What I want to do is then attach the invoice. So I'm hoping, I didn't do an invoice, so there we go. So I will tell you what, we will just put in a new text document, which is ACE invoice. Come to my ACE invoice. There we go. So this is my ACE invoice there. That's that. And I can hit attach to that. Oh, sorry, not that one. So there we can say OK to that. Now, when I save that document, if I come back to that again, one of the great things about doc attach is someone comes along and says, this 6,200, what was that based on? Well, I can go back and have a look at the purchase order number here. So I could drill back to the purchase order number and see here that, okay, this was this and this was the quote, okay? So I can see the quote and I can preview that. So there we go. But why should I need to do that? With document attach, with flow, if I have a look at the attach here, I can come along here and I can see on this document here, quote for New York trip. I can hit preview and I can immediately see what the quote was. I've then got a copy of the invoice, which actually at the moment is a blank document because I didn't create that properly, but there you can see I can open that up and I can see that blank document there. So as you can see with doc attach, I am able to follow things around and keep our data in one nice place. Just hoping we come back to my inbox. Here we go, our purchase order that came to our supplier. If I open this up, you can see that we've got the various attachments. We've got the purchase order that comes up and says, please see the attachment for the breakdown of our traveling employees. Okay, I can come back out of that. I can have a look at our ACE travel contract. Okay, this is an ACE travel contract with agreement on price and supply. So there we are, that's the details of our contract. We've got our general terms of business. There we go, that has gone out to ACE Travel. And then last of all, the thing that we were interested in supplying to them is the details of the travelers. So with doc attach, we can see, and with emailing, we're able to pass on a lot of information to our suppliers and within the company, because we have got these details all here, we are able to keep that all nicely within our company. Okay. I'm just looking at the time. I was hoping to show you a demonstration then of it working through with sales order processing, but sales order processing works in exactly the same way. If I come back to one of my documents here and have a look at all my sales transactions, or my sales order transactions, I should say, I am hoping that I can have a look at, I had a client who asked me for a certain set of purchase orders, and their purchase order started with PO 125. Now I can't honestly remember which sales invoice or sales order in our SOP system was their purchase order 125. Oh, no, it helps if I can actually type properly, 125. But if I start off looking at PO 125, put a filter on that, that's right, it was Aaron Fitz. They came through and asked me for a couple of orders. So I can drill into this order here, and we can see this is zero value because actually this is the one that I just started off doing. And I remember that they wanted, if we have a look here, they wanted, I think it was 4, that was it, 4 lots of RAM. But if we come and have a look at this order here, we've got all this already set up where we had the details for them, where this was the new order. I can do that. And actually what would be nice for the Aaron Fitz to know is that this is on order. So I can actually come to them and email. It will generate the email and it will go out and say to them that this is on order. If I actually come back to that order again and have a look at this, okay, we can see that was that. Let's just have a look at what I was attaching. I was actually attaching their order, And I'm just wondering, did I have anything in there that was going to go and send an email to them? Yes, I was. I was actually going to send them the order. And actually, if we have a look, the item with 256 megs of RAM, we can see that that actually has a document attached, and we have a certificate of conformity. So when they receive their purchase order, or when they receive, not their purchase order, their email, Aaron Fitz at some point in time will also receive through the certificate of conformity as well as their order. And when that is transferred to invoice, that order and those details will come through. So as we can see, purchase order, sales orders with doc attach work in similar ways. Okay. I'm going to curtail slightly there on that one, because the last thing I wanted to talk to you about today was just to talk about workflow and how using GP Payables batch workflow may help you in a couple of ways in slowing down your cutting out your paper chase, and also looking at segregation of duties. So if we come to purchasing, standard way that you probably do this is I'm looking at payment batch here, and it's sort of like authorizing of payment batches. So what I've done is down here, I have actually created in preparation a payment batch. So if I have a look at payment batch here, we can see I've got my batch, which is a Tech Summit. And you can see here that I've got going to be paying advanced travel, £90.25. And probably the way that you'd do this is you'd have this all set up. You'd maybe start off by having you'd come in and you'd print the batch edit list, have that documented out, email someone saying, this is who I'm going to be paying this month. Is this okay with you? You know, are you happy with that? Shall I go ahead and pay that? And that is held in an email trail outside of GP. Okay. Problems with that is, look, we've got this edit list that's approved, but actually I come back into this payment batch and actually turn around and tell you what I'm also going to do is pay that person that much. Payment batch has changed. I can create the payments, and the authorizer is not aware of any of the changes that I have made. Okay. I'm just going to uncheck that just for the moment, just so to know that this will work for me within my system. So I'm going to say okay to that. With GP Workflow is a set of rules you can set up behind the scenes, and this came out in 2013 and has been developed ever since. It's one of the few places that is, or one of the many places that is still being actively developed by Microsoft off their own bat. And if I have a look at the payment batch approval, I've just set up a very simple payment batch here, where basically what happens is if the batch is raised by user AP1, they can't approve it, so it goes to AP user 2 to be approved. If it's created by anyone else other than AP user 2, it'll go to AP user 1. If it's under £1,000, if the payment is over £1,000, as well as using those two rules, it would actually hit the finance manager for approval as well. Okay, so we're just going to look at that, and I just need to activate this workflow, because what I just want to show you is just before we go to the batch, if I just show you the batches screen, standard GP screen without workflow turned on, we can see this is the screenshot here with no additional buttons. Okay, so I'm just going to come through here, turn the workflow on, save that. So now with the GP workflow, what happens is once I actually say submit a batch into workflow, the batch can't be posted. Nothing can happen on that batch. So if I come to my batch here, we can see here that this has all changed. This screen has changed. So if I actually come to my payment batch, okay, so if I come to my edit payment batch, here we go, have a look at this. I can come to my Tech Summits batch. I can have a look down here, and I could actually say at the minute, yeah, okay, that's a credit note. Sorry, should have paid attention to that. I could come to this one and say, okay, I'm going to add in that £100, and it's quite happy at the moment to add in that £100 for me, and I can say okay to that. So that batch is okay, that can be edited, and I'm fine with that. But then once I've got to the point of actually building my batch completely how I want it to, if I select that batch and then hit submit, and this is a payment run for tech demo. Okay, put some comments in there, submit that. What happens in submitting this batch into workflow and having the workflow enabled? It effectively freezes this batch. It stops people being able to make changes to it. If I have a look at the Tech Summit batch, we can see here that we have a history. We can see it's got a recall, and we can view the history of this document, and we can see here that we've got a payment batch going through it, and the payment run has gone to tech demo, and it's waiting for AP user 2 to approve that batch. Okay, if I actually come as the user and try and modify that batch once I've raised it and submitted it, when I come to my edit payment batch, look at this. If I come to my advanced travel and say, oh, actually, I don't want to pay them that £103, and I try and uncheck that, we can see here that actually I get a warning that I'm unable to change that batch. So do I want to save changes? And if I do want to change it, I actually have to recall the batch and recall all the emails and take it out of the workflow. So don't want to do that. So I'm going to cancel that and close that screen down. Okay, so what happens at the other end? Well, down here, I've got a user here logged in. I'm hoping that as AP user 2 at, let's see what time, sorry, let's come back to my email folders. As AP user 2, if I just sort these on date and time, we can see here at 14:45, I've received an email in. And this is telling me that I've got a payment batch of £194 to approve, £994 and 4 pence. And actually here, I can open up this attachment and I can see what is actually required to be paid. Okay, so there I can see within GP, I haven't had to print out, I haven't had to save that document, I haven't had to get the email address. Everything has been done automatically for me. With the right setup in GP as well, and with the right setup of workflow, I can actually have some links on here. So as a user, I wouldn't have to log into GP to approve it. I could actually approve or reject that batch direct from the email. Okay, those links look something like, and I think I've got them on an earlier email. Those links would look something like approve and reject. I've already approved this batch. Can't redo it again because it's already been approved and posted. So if I try and click on this approve button here, it's going to turn around and go, give me an error because it's already been approved. Okay. But as the user, I can come into here, I can go to the batches, I can find my Tech Summit batch here, pending user action, and what I will be able to do in a second as AP user 2, come through and approve that batch. Okay, this will just take a second. Approve that. Good to go. Okay, and I approve that. Coming back to as my original user, I can now come in and, if I wanted to, post those payments. Okay, he says, I don't think I've actually processed that batch actually, sorry, just for the moment. So if I come to my batches, I can actually see here in my Tech Summit, that's all completed. I can come to the transactions. If I go to the payment batch, I can see here, if I try and make a change, I can come back to this batch and try and remove that, and we can see here that we can't make any changes. So what I'm hoping you can see here is that with workflow, we are able then to segregate duties, but also using it to actually cut down our paper chases and things like that. So I think potentially, if I come back to our slideshow, I think we've covered just about in a whistle-stop tour everything we wanted to do. I think there are two things that I wanted to further and say to you about this, about our tips and tricks. I think that one thing about today is we've seen that this has been one of the more popular. GP attendees all seem to want to come and find out about things. So there's a definite future with GP that needs to be pushed. And the change that Microsoft have said for the future is that GP is a mature product. You know, it's like Word, it's like Outlook. They've been around for years and years and years and years and years, and it's very difficult to actually make big changes to GP. So how do we define the future of GP? GP is up to us as GP users to define the future, to say how we want it to go ahead. It's an evolution of a mature product. The exception really is workflow 2 to workflow 4 to the next stages of workflow. They're the new things that Microsoft have brought in, where they're looking to try and give some structure about the processes within GP. Development will also really only be regulatory driven by Microsoft in response to regulations, such as making tax digital and electronic VAT submission, where legislation stated that certain features effectively were required by accounting systems. Therefore, Microsoft would develop them straight away. So I think what I'm really trying to say to you is the future of GP is customer driven, and Microsoft is saying that themselves, and they have developed a GP development website, which is for us to give them ideas. And if I just log this, you can see here that the website is there. If you want GP to advance forward and do things, come to this experiences.dynamics.com ideas and look for the GP window. And in here, this is where you can say, these are features that we wish to be developed within GP. And you can see here, just looking through, what was I going to say? I think there were some things here when we have a look and have a quick look at inventory control. I should have kept some through. We can see here that ability to import and export stock counts, that was completed. That was a feature that came out in 18.3 as a direct request of customers. Okay, and we've got things here that are still under control and looking and things. So GP isn't a dead product. GP has a life, GP has a future, but it's up to us as users to tell Microsoft what we want and to vote and look and see what we want. Okay, so I'm just having a little look. At the minute, I can't see any questions that are there. So I think that leaves it for me to say thanks for listening. Thank you for taking the time to come and hear me waffle on. I hope you've found it meaningful, insightful. I hope you've got some tips and tricks that you can do. Excuse me. If you have any questions on what you've seen, please either email your or get in touch with your account manager. You know who that is, or email say hello at m-hance.com. Push those through, and we will have a look at that and see, and someone will get back to you and give you the information that you're after. And with that, I'd like to say thank you very much. I think the final session of today has been run by Dan Booth, and that'll be very informative and be a really good introduction to Power BI for Dynamics GP. Thank you very much for listening. Bye now.